it in for a stretch. Now your shoulders are shrugging down out of the ears. Focus on lengthening the back of the neck and pulling the belly in. Always pulling up on the pelvic floor. Try to press the back of the shoulders down towards the mat. As you pull the leg in a little deeper, you want to force air out of the lungs. You can release a little on the inhale and then pull it in deeper on the exhale. And we're going to drop the leg out to the side. Keep your hips squared off facing the ceiling. So hopefully your pelvis doesn't tip with that falling leg. The lower leg that's on the floor, try to stretch it longer. Then you're going to bring the leg up to the ceiling. We're going to cross over the center line, but make sure your pelvis stays squared off facing the ceiling. Pull that straight leg in a little deeper. Shoulders are shrugging down out of the ears. And then bring it right back to center. Now we're going to go ahead and switch to the same thing on the other side. That lower leg on the floor is still reaching long. When you take those deep breaths, you want to feel the rib cage expanding out to the left and right while your abs are still tight and pulled in. Pull that lifted leg in a little deeper, and then when you're ready, you're going to drop it out to the side. Keep your hips squared off facing the ceiling. Hopefully you feel those hips opening up. Let the leg fall a little closer to the floor. Remember to keep your hips squared off facing forward. When you're ready, you're going to bring the leg up and then cross over the center line. Pulling the foot towards the shoulder. Keep pressing the shoulders down. Keep lengthening the back of the neck. Pull the leg in a little deeper if you can. Then you're going to bring the leg right back to center, and then we'll take the foot off the ring. So hold the ring with your hands while we do our ab curls. So arms are straight to the ceiling. You're squeezing the ring. Your shoulders are shrugging down. The head and shoulders come up off the floor. Look into the belly, and then rest head and shoulders right back down. Exhale as you curl up. Inhale, resting. Your feet are flat, pressing into the mat. You do want to keep knees in line with hips. Draw the navel in towards your spine. Keep reaching the arms long too. So if you have a ring or ball between your hands, press harder into it. We have one more, curling up as you exhale. And then resting head and shoulders back down. Now I want you just to move your pelvis on this one. We're not going to lift the hips up off the mat, but you just rock your pelvis back so you feel the imprint. Rock your pelvis forward so you feel that arch form between your back and the mat. Rocking back and forth, getting a little extension in the lumbar spine. Do one more, but we are going to finish in the imprint so that we can go into the bridging where your hips are going to lift. So feel the imprinted spine. Keep pressing the toes into the floor and lift the hips up. Remember, if you're holding that ball or ring in your hands, press harder into it. Keep your arms long. If you wanted to, you could just keep your hands on the floor and press your arms into the mat. Lifting the hips up, squeezing the glutes, pulling up on the pelvic floor, rolling back down. We'll do one more bridge, lifting the hips up, and then resting back down. So go ahead and relax your arms, but keep your ring, because we're going to cross one ankle over the opposite knee and then pull that leg into your chest. We're going to do the same thing on the other side real quick before we go into some toe taps. So with the props, if you have the ring, put the ring between your ankles. If you have the ball, you could do the ball between the ankles or the knees. It's just the ring between the knees is a little wide. But try to do ring between the ankles or ball between ankles or knees. You're going to squeeze that ring or ball as tight as you can. If you don't have any props, just keep the legs together. Find your neutral, so you're right in the middle of an imprint and an arch. So you feel that the hip bones and puke bone are on the same plane. Cinch that imaginary belt around your waist and then start the toe tap. So we're just moving at the hip joint. Lower and lift. As those feet get closer to the floor, you feel your abs have to work a little harder. Press the shoulders into the mat, reach your arms long, still lengthening the back of the neck. not letting the lumbar spine move as the legs lower and lift. We'll do one more. When you bring the legs right back up, you're gonna hold it. I want you to try to go into the 100 right away with the legs straight. So when you're ready, curl up, look into the belly, lengthen the legs out, and then start pumping the arms. Inhaling for 5, exhaling for 5. Remember, you could bring the legs back into tabletop, or you could do legs straight to the ceiling if you can't maintain them at that low 45-degree angle. Inhaling for the 5, exhaling for the 5. Trying to squeeze that ring a little tighter, squeeze the ball a little tighter if you have it, or just make those inner thighs work hard, keeping the legs together. Stay curled up if you can, but if you're just getting tension in the neck, keep head and shoulders down. Try to work with those legs at a lower angle if you can. Inhaling for 5, exhaling for 5. Now this is gonna be our last 10 count. So inhaling for the 5, after you exhale, hold everything still and curl up higher, reach longer, and then you can finally rest back down. So keep the ring, but we're gonna hold it between your hands. Same with the ball. You could just do the reaching arms if you don't have any props. The legs are gonna be down onto the floor, straightened together, and you're gonna hold your prop in between your hands. Squeeze as tight as possible, and we're going to roll up. So head and shoulders come off the floor, come all the way up, and stretch out over the legs. Stack your spine up to straight and then rolling right back down, one vertebrae at a time. Always squeezing the inner thighs together. Keep your arms long and straight, coming all the way up and stretching forward as you exhale. Stack up, grow tall, and rolling down. Hollow out the abdomen, drawing the navel in. Trying so hard not to grip into your neck as you're pressing into that ring. Fold over the legs a little further with each one. Longer arms. Stack up, draw the navel in. We'll do one more roll up. This time we are gonna stay up. So bring yourself all the way up and then stretch forward over the legs. Stack back up to straight, grow tall and hold this. You could just do reaching arms if you don't have the ring. If you don't have the ring or ball, you are gonna open up and reach one arm back, come back to center, open up. If you choose to keep the ring or ball in your hands, just keep pressing into it and twisting as far as you can. Try to grow taller. So we're always trying to improve your posture, pulling the shoulder blades together, squeeze the legs together too, make the inner thighs work harder. So as you're rotating the hips, knees, ankles, they do not move at all. Just twisting at the waist. Do your last one on each side, pulling the belly in deeper. When you come back to center, we're gonna do that slow roll down to the floor. So still keep your arms strong, reaching forward, tuck your tailbone, and roll down as slow as possible to the mat. Shoulders are staying down. Even pull the shoulder blades together. You'll eventually feel that low back touching the mat. Draw your navel in deeper, squeeze the legs together. Slowly resting the head and shoulders back down to the floor. And then we can go ahead and get rid of the ring for now. Because we're gonna do leg circles. So point both feet, one leg reaches the ceiling, and you're gonna start your circle. We're trying to draw the biggest circle you can without moving the pelvis. That lower leg is preferably straight, but if it ever felt better on the low back or your hips, you could always keep that lower leg bent. Pressing the shoulders down, lengthening the back of the neck. Do one more in this direction, and when you bring that leg to the ceiling, pause, flex both feet, and go in the opposite direction, reaching out through the heel. Longer legs too. Keep that lower leg still a working leg. Pressing the shoulders to the floor. Rolling through the hip for one more. When you bring that leg to the ceiling, grab on and pull it in for a stretch. We are going to do the same set of circles on the other side. So when you're ready, reach to the toes and then start your circle. Inhale as you start, exhale as you finish. Keep those arms strong. With your arms pressing into the floor, It is a little bit more ideal to turn your palms up to face the ceiling, so you open up across the front of your chest, rotating at the shoulders externally. When you bring the leg to the ceiling, you're gonna pause, flex both feet, and go in the opposite direction. So think longer legs. Imagine you're cinching that belt tighter around your waist, keeping your core tight and strong. Keep that lower leg still a working leg. We'll do one more circle in this direction, still with a flex foot. Bring it to the ceiling and then pull it in for a stretch. When you rest both feet down, I want your knees bent with feet flat on the mat. Rock your pelvis back so we can go into the bridging again, but we're gonna add the kicks to it. So lift the hips up and hold it. Kick one leg to the ceiling, lower down, kick the other leg to the ceiling and lower down. Keeping the hips up. Keep your arms long, pressing downward into the floor. You could do palms facing up on this one too if you wanted to. Do one more kick on each side. When both feet are on the floor, you're gonna hold it, take a deep breath, and then slowly roll back down until you rest. We'll do the same thing, but elevate the heels if you can. So go ahead, peel your spine up, lift the hips, lift the heels, and then go ahead and do that same lift to the ceiling, switching, kicking the other leg. So when you're lifting those heels, you don't want to lift too high that your ankle bones roll outward. So you still want to draw those inner ankle bones towards each other, keep the hips up, keep your pelvis level so it's not tipping as that leg kicks to the ceiling. You can do one more kick on each side, draw the navel in deeper, press your arms into the floor. When both sets of toes are on the floor, you're gonna hold it and then slowly roll back down until you rest. Rest down to flat feet. We're gonna do this bridge again, but we'll do the leg lift and lower. So when you're ready, peel the spine up one vertebrae at a time, hold it, kick a leg to the ceiling, keep it straight, and then lower and lift that kicking leg. Keep it long and straight, reaching out through the heel as you lower, reaching out through the toes as you lift. Keep the arms strong, pressing into the floor. Do one more, lower and lift. Then you're gonna go ahead and switch out to the other side. Keeping the hips up, flex and point. Just adds that coordination. Lift the hips a little higher so that lower leg is working harder to keep the hips up. Into your last one. Both feet are on the floor, take a deep breath, and then slowly roll back down until you rest. Now we're gonna grab onto that ball if you have it, and we're gonna put the ball between the knees. Now you don't have to use the ball between the knees, you could just keep your thighs parallel. The ball actually helps keep the thighs parallel, but make sure your thighs work harder. So one leg is gonna extend outward to straight, while the opposite foot stays on the floor for a single leg bridge. Keep the arms strong, pressing into the mat. Peel your spine up, lift up into the bridge, and hold. So focus on your thighs here. Your pelvis is level, your thighs are parallel with each other, and then slowly roll back down until you rest. We're gonna do it again, lifting the hips. Press that lower foot harder into the mat, and then rolling down. We got one more, lifting the hips. Hold at the top for a deep breath, and then slowly rolling back down. We'll do the same thing on the other side. 3 with a single leg. Lifting the hips. And then rolling back down. Always think pulling up on the pelvic floor, reaching the arms long, reaching out of the hip of that extended leg. One more, squeeze that ball a little tighter. And then resting back down. So keep your ball close because we're gonna use it for a double leg stretch, and then we'll use it for double leg, straight leg stretch where both legs are going up and down. So when you're ready, you're gonna bring your legs to tabletop because we'll go into the ab series here. Legs at tabletop, curl up, look into the belly, hug one knee in, and then you switch. Try to stay curled up, looking into the belly. Draw the navel in deeper. Hollowing out the abdomen the whole time. If you get tension in the neck, remember you can keep your head and shoulders down. You don't have to stay curled up, but try to curl up a little bit higher if you can. Now when you're ready, bring both legs together. Here's your chance to put that ball between your ankles if you want to work a little harder. You're going to lengthen both legs forward, arms reach back, and then come back to center. If you don't have the ball between your ankles or the knees, just squeeze the legs together. The goal is to keep your spine in flexion the whole time so you stay curled up as the arms and legs extend. Squeezing that ball tighter, make the inner thighs work. One more. Come back to center. Get rid of your ball, but keep it close because we're going to do our scissor kicks. And then you switch. Try and keep a longer leg as you pull it in, not letting the knee bend. You can deepen the stretch too by doing this with a flexed feet. Narrowing the waistline. When you bring both legs together, bring them to the ceiling. If you want, put that ball between your ankles again. Head and shoulders rest down to the floor, arms press down into the mat, and you're going to lower and lift the legs. But squeeze the ball if you have it. If you don't, just glue those legs together. If you need to, you could put your hands on your hips to feel that your pelvis staying stable and staying in the same position as those legs get lower. As the legs get lower to the floor, you really got to focus on drawing the navel in deeper and squeezing the glutes. Squeeze the ball a little harder. Remember, your shoulders are pressing down to the floor. We'll do two more. That's your last lower and lift. When the legs come to the ceiling, bend them to tabletop and then get rid of the ball. So we won't need any more for the ab series because last one is crisscross. Fingers together behind your head, curl up, and then twist towards the bent leg. Remember, shoulders are slid down out of the ears. Try to curl up a little bit higher if you can. Keeping elbows wide. Really stretch that leg out long too. Give yourself enough time to fully extend it like you're trying to touch the wall with the toes. You have one more twist on each side, and then when you're back to center, you get a rest down. Lengthen the legs down to straight, reach your arms way back overhead, and just stretch through your abdomen here. Feel like your ribs are lifting to the ceiling, just for the stretch. We're gonna roll to our side. When you're on your side, you have a couple options for the upper body. You could lay all the way down onto your side. You can use that lower arm for neck support or a pillow for neck support. You could prop yourself up onto your elbow and forearm, or you can challenge yourself and bring yourself only onto the elbow with both hands behind your head. Now with the legs forward is easier, legs back in line with the rest of your body is harder. So if you can, try to balance that lower hip, lower elbow, and just move the top leg, pointing as you lift, flex as you lower. So the goal is to not move anything in your upper body as you're lifting and lowering this top leg, and lift that top leg as high as you can without dropping the waistline. Every time the legs meet together, squeeze them together for that quick moment, activating the inner thighs. We'll do one more, and then we're going to hold the leg at hip height and draw small circles. Be aware of this lower shoulder so you're not sliding and sinking into it. You want to stay lifted and keep the shoulders slid down out of the ears. Reaching for a longer leg. Then you're going to flex the foot and go in the opposite direction. Keep that lower leg tight and strong. And here it gets a little harder. Keep that lifted leg with a flexed foot because you're doing the kicks. Going forward and back. Every time that leg goes back behind you, think squeezing the glutes. Don't let the lower leg get lazy. We'll do one more forward kick, last kick back, and then we're gonna lay all the way down to the floor. So if you wanted to, you could use your ring or ball between your ankles. I'm gonna go with the ball today. So squeezing as tight as possible between the ankles. You're in a straight line down the center of your mat. Relaxing your neck, try not to grip into your neck, and lift both legs. The top hand can be on the floor for balance support or over the hips to challenge the balance. Squeeze that ball a little tighter, reach for longer legs. Remember, you're still wearing that tight belt around your waist, pulling the belly in. Now you're gonna lift and hold it. So try to keep those legs up, squeezing that ball a little tighter. And then when you're ready, you can rest back down. We're gonna get rid of the ball as we go to the other side. Prop yourself up onto your elbow. If you did that on the other side, you balance on the elbow, shoulders shrug down out of the ears, and we'll start with our kicks. Lifts, really lifting up on the inhale, lowering down on the exhale. Be aware of that waistline so we're not sinking down when the leg lifts. Try and keep that long line through your spine. Keep that lower leg tight and strong. That's considered your anchor. We'll do one more, lift and lower, then hold the leg at hip height and do little circles. Shoulders are shrugging down out of the ears. Think longer leg. Keep that lower leg still working, still taking the deep breath up high in the rib cage, and then you're gonna flex the foot and go in the opposite direction, trying to stay balanced. Be aware of the shoulder too, that lower shoulder, so we're trying to stay lifted out of the shoulder. Keep the foot flexed to these circles. And when you're ready, hold the leg stable as you swing forward and back, not letting that leg fall to the floor. And you're also staying in control of your upper body. The slower you move that kicking leg, the easier it is to keep your upper body in control. Hopefully feel a stretch to the back side of that kicking leg when you go forward, and then you feel those glutes work hard when you draw the leg back. Flexing on the kick forward, pointing back. You got two more. Keep that lower leg tight and strong, still breathing. When you bring the legs together, you get a rest down. I'm gonna use the ball between the ankles because I did on the other side, rolling away. When you go all the way down, glue the legs together and then lift. You get to choose what you wanna do with this top arm. Keeping it over the legs is gonna challenge your balance. Don't grip into the neck. Make sure you're squeezing that ball tighter. Hollowing out the abdomen. Do one more lift, and then you get a rest. Get rid of the ball, and then roll onto your abdomen. So when you're on your belly, move that. We're gonna tuck your elbows by your side and shoulders shrug down. The legs are long, feet are flat onto the floor. Tighten your abs, pulling the belly in, and then lift the rib cage up. Hopefully not using the arms to lift you up. Lifting the rib cage and lower. Keep the shoulder blades pulling together and the shoulders slid down. You have two more. One more lift up. And then you can rest. Now lengthen those arms long, reaching out to straight. This time we're gonna lift the rib cage and the legs, but keeping your arms extended is gonna be harder on your back and the shoulders. So if you prefer to do the bent arms like you did before, you could just keep your arms tucked by your side. Get rid of that ball is in the way. Lifting the legs, lifting the rib cage, long arms reaching. Deep breath as you lift, and then exhale, lower. So doing these little lifts is going to transition right into our swimming. So when you're ready, lift up and hold, and then start swimming the arms and legs. Try not to look straight out in front of you. You do want to look down to the mat so that your neck stays neutral, keeping it long. Now tighten your abs a little bit more, pulling the belly in deeper. Reach longer arms and legs. And then when you're ready, you can rest back down. Bring your arms to bent so that you can rest your head down onto your hands. You could turn your head left or right if you wanted to, or just preferably keeping it neutral looking down. Both legs bend, squeeze the heels together, and lift both knees. Exhale as you lift. You're pressing the heels together. Telling those inner thighs to work hard, and always pulling up on the pelvic floor. 3 more lifts. Now, if you can, I want you to lift. We haven't done this one before in the mat class. We do this in the reformer sometimes and definitely in private sessions. It's called grasshopper. So you're gonna point your toes, keep your knees lifted with the legs bent, and do a crisscross motion with your ankles. So you crisscross one over the other. I want you to lengthen both legs long, and then you get to rest them back down. Bend your knees, lift them up, crisscross your ankles, and lengthen the legs, and then you get a fall down. There's no set number of how many crisscrosses you have to do. Just do well. You could do 2 sets or 3 sets. You're gonna bend the knees, lift the knees, crisscross the ankles a few times, keeping the knees lifted while you do the crisscross. Lengthen both legs, still keeping them lifted, and then you rest. We'll do one more. Bend your knees, lift them, crisscross the ankles, lengthen the legs, but lifting them higher, and then you get a rest back down. Keep the legs rested, keep them long. Tuck your elbows by your side again so we can come up for our swan. Lift the rib cage and come all the way up, and then lowering back down. And again, lifting up. Deep breath in the rib cage, but pulling the belly in and rest. We'll do 2 more. Try not to grip into the neck. And 1 more lift up. Resting back down. Now we're going to pick up the hips and just go into a little child's pose stretch. You could roll onto your back and do a little shell stretch if you wanted to. But try to go into this little child's pose stretch, rounding your spine towards the ceiling. When you're ready, you're going to stand tall on your knees, but you could sit if you didn't want to do this one. Kneeling, we're doing the thigh stretch. So you want to be in a straight line from shoulders to the knees. If you wanted to, you could hold some props in your hands. I think I'm going to switch it up and use the weights because I haven't used those yet today. Arms are straight out in front of you, but if you prefer, you can keep them by your side. You're going to hinge back from the knees and then return forward. So you could squeeze the ball between your hands or the ring. As we're falling back, you don't want to break at the hips like you're going to sit under your heels. This is just a hinge at the knee joints. You're still stiff as a board from shoulders down to the knees. Pull the belly in. Shoulders are shrugging down out of the ears. Let's do 2 more. And last one. When you come right back up, we'll stay up, but we're going to come down onto all 4s. So your hands are on the mat, palms are flat, shoulders shrug down out of the ears. We're going to try to curl the toes under and lift the knees, but that part is optional. You could just keep your knees down. Keep the long line through your spine, and then we do the alternating leg kicks. Exhale as you lift that leg to the ceiling. Squeezing the glutes on that swing up. Your abs are still tight and pulled in. Arms are strong. Pushing the floor away. So even focus on that upper back too. So you want to feel the shoulder blades spreading apart away from your spine and not sinking sternum to the floor. You don't want those shoulder blades to wing. Do 1 more on each side. We are going to end up resting down for a little breather and then going into leg pull. So this one we go into a plank. If you needed to, you can modify this and stay on your knees, or you can move down to your elbows if your wrist needed a break. But try to lift up to the straight leg plank, straight arms, and then alternate a leg lift. So as you're lifting that leg, you're controlling the pelvis and the low back, only lifting that leg as high as you can without moving anything in the pelvis. Still thinking about that upper back, shoulder blades spread apart, long line through your neck. 1 more on each side, and then when you're ready, you can rest back down. Now we're going to turn the face towards the long edge of the mat so that we can move into our mermaid and then side bends. So sitting in that mermaid position, you could sit with the legs straight out in front of you or cross-sitting style if this bothered the hips. but you're gonna have hand on the floor and stretch away from the direction of the feet. And then come up and stretch over the feet. Remember to keep the shoulders slid down out of the ears. Deep breath up high in the rib cage. Now when you're ready, let's do, before I go into that side bend, let's do the little rotation that we always do in mermaid. So you fall and then twist. Because I want to do this again this week when we're in our side bend, that little rotation. Now when you're ready, we're centered. You're going to bring the legs to the bottom edge of your mat. That lower hand is at the top of your mat. And when you're ready, we're going to lift up into our our side bend. But if you wanted to, you could keep that lower knee on the floor. And then you rest back down. So if you need to see lower knee on the floor, you can keep it down and still get that stretch. Lifting up. Try and do at least 3 of these, but on that last one, we're gonna add that little challenge. You know, I already did 3, so if you want, go up for 1 more, stretch, and then add that rotation where you're twisting underneath your waistline, following the hand with your eyes, rotate back to face front, and then you can go all the way back down to the floor. You could always do another one of those if you wanted to, but we're gonna go to the other side and do our mermaid on this side. So get your legs into the Z-sit, and then fall over and stretch, and over. Deep breath, filling the rib cage. As you're stretching away from the feet, keep the opposite hip down, close to the floor. Let's add the rotation to this one. So you fall over and stretch, twist, twist back, and then come all the way back up. So when you're ready to go into the full side bend, stretch out the length of your mat. Make sure the top leg is in front of the lower leg, and lift up and stretch. Do at least 3, but that 4th one, we're gonna add the twist. Remember, you can keep your knee down on the floor. You could go down to your elbow if you needed to. Still taking the deep breath up high in the rib cage, not gripping into the neck, so keep the shoulders slid down. If you can, get up, over, and then we twist. Looking at that hand as you rotate, face back to front, and then you can finally rest back down. Now we are gonna stay seated with your legs straight out in front of you. If you want, you could use some props in your hands. I'm gonna use the weighted balls. You can use the ball or the ring or a band. Arms are straight out in front of you. This one's spine stretch forward. So your legs are straight, your spine is up against an imaginary wall, and only the upper spine leaves that wall. And then you stack right back up. So we're focusing on getting a stretch in the thoracic spine, right between those shoulder blades, and then stacking back up. But you still want to keep the shoulder blades slid down so that they're not gripping upward into your neck. Pull the belly in deeper. You want to feel that weight staying the same on the sit bones, so it's not shifting back and forth as your spine moves. We'll do 1 more. Longer arms reaching out in front of you, and then you can come right back up. Now draw the legs together and have your knees bent. Your feet are flat, glue the knees together, arms are reaching. I'm gonna keep using the balls, you keep using whatever prop you want, but we're gonna tuck your tailbone and fall back, and then pull back up to seated. Inhale as you fall back, exhale up. Hollowing out the abdomen. Squeezing the knees together. Good, we'll do 1 more. When you come back up, let's hold it. Now we're gonna rotate. So fall and twist to one side, come up to face front, fall and go to the other side. And front. Keep pulling the belly in. Keep your shoulders shrugging down out of the ears. Good, 1 more on each side. Last one. When you come back to center,
we're gonna hold it. So get rid of your props, whatever you have in your hands, because we're going into rolling like a ball and then hopefully into open leg rocker. So make sure you have enough room behind you on your mat. Rolling like a ball, your hands start on your shins. C curve your spine and your feet are off the floor. Roll to your shoulders on the inhale and then come right back up to balance on the exhale, not letting the feet touch the floor. Pulling the belly in. We'll do one more. When you're up, stay up and then hold it. Hands are gonna move to the back of your thighs, knees separate about as wide as your shoulders. Legs can just go to tabletop, but if you can, bring those legs all the way up to straight. Your hands move to the back of the calves, and then you roll back, and then you come back up and balance. Shoulders still shrug down out of the ears. When you roll back, you're just rolling to the shoulder blades. Got to use that core strength to keep yourself strong when you come up. Tell those quads to work hard to keep the legs straight. Try and do one more if you can. When we're up, we're gonna stay up and then hold it. Now, if the legs are straight, draw them together. This transfers right into teaser. So remember, you could do the tabletop legs. If you can, let go of the legs and reach your arms. They can reach parallel with the floor, out towards your toes, or all the way up next to your ears. Pull the belly in, glue the legs together, and then when you're ready, you can rest back down, take a break. Okay, so now we're gonna end up going into a plank leg pull face into the ceiling so we have our legs long and straight. So when you're ready, legs straight but together, make sure your heels are on your mat, point your feet, hands are behind your hips, and lift the hips up. You could just stay here and hold this, but if you can, add that leg lift. Kicking the leg to the ceiling on the exhale. Try and get those hips up as high as you can. Keep pushing the floor away. We'll do one more full set. When both feet are on the floor, hold, and then slowly rest back down. Now fold into the legs for a stretch and just breathe. We are going to go down onto the floor for a rollover. So again, make sure you have enough room on your mat behind you. We're going to do the little prep where we pick the hips up, but if you wanted to, you could do this with the ball underneath your hips to help you get into it, or rolled up real thick towel underneath your hips. So legs are straight to the ceiling. This is our first prep. As you lift the hips and drop the hips, just a little hip lift. You could do this with the ball or a rolled up towel. Even a yoga block too helps. And then we start with the legs straight and bring the legs overhead from there. And then you roll right back to that ball, towel, or block. Now, if you can do the full rollover, take that ball and put it between your ankles. So we can go into the rollover while you're squeezing the ball. Exhale, legs overhead, take a deep breath, and then slowly roll back down until you rest. I'll do it again. Take a deep breath. Exhale, legs overhead. Squeezing that ball a little tighter, and then rolling back down. We'll do one more. When you rest back down to the floor, we'll stay here. If you have that ball, you can keep it. Otherwise, just keep the legs together. The legs are going to bend to tabletop, and we go into can-can. So you're going to tip the legs to one side, extend them to straight, then bring the legs to the other side, extend them to straight. Pulling the belly in, squeezing that ball a little tighter. Pressing the shoulders to the floor. Do one more on each side. And your last one. When you're centered, lengthen the legs to the ceiling, but flex the feet. You can still keep the ball on this one or get rid of it if you don't like it. We're going to do corkscrew. So it's just a little hip lift. Start your circle, drawing the legs down and around, bring them to center, and you do that same circle in the opposite direction. Drawing the legs down and around. Hollow out the abdomen. Squeezing that ball a little tighter. Remember, you're always pulling up on the pelvic floor. You can do one more on each side. Even up that set though. And down and around. And you're back to center. Good, get rid of that ball and you're gonna rock yourself up to seated. So you can use your ball on this one, you can use a roller, or you could just lay down onto your back and do some pelvic tilts for movement. But we're gonna just do an extension where we go backwards. I like just to get into the extension and hang out there, but if you want, you could do more repetitions to make your abs work. So if you're using that ball, you kind of want it right behind your low ribs, and you're gonna fall backwards. If this bothers your neck, you can always put your hands behind the neck. If this is not a good spot for your extension, you can move that ball or roller down a little bit more. So if you don't have these props, you could just lay back down flat onto the mat and just do some pelvic rocks. So you go back and forth, even some bridging is gonna get you a slight bit of extension. Falling back. We'll do one more. Deep breath. I was doing repetitions even though I said I like to hold it. Sometimes I start just moving. When you're ready, you can come all the way back up. We're gonna sit with your legs straight out in front of you so that we could do a little hamstring stretch. So your spine is long and straight, you're growing tall. I know this is really hard to do. Sit straight and vertical with your legs straight out on the mat. But you're gonna try to keep this flat back as you hinge forward, pulling the belly in, long line through your spine, and then you return back up. If you can, reach your arms and do that same hinge. Keep your arms next to your ears, lengthening them, pull the belly in, hinging over the legs, and then we return back up. We'll do one more hinge at the hips, keeping the flat back. Now the next one, you can definitely flex your spine. You're gonna round over the legs, bringing your face as close to the knees as possible. Remember, you are exhaling every time you pull yourself in a little deeper. As you bring yourself up to seated, just bend one knee and bring it with you, because we're gonna do tree. So I want you to try to sit tall again with this bent leg in towards your chest. We're gonna kick it up as you exhale, bend it, kick it, bend. Now kick and hold that leg straight. Walk your hands up that leg and pull yourself in. Shoulders are shrugged down out of the ears. Keep the leg lifted as you fall back halfway. You're in this reclining position. Hold on to that leg if you need to, but if you could work harder, let go. Arms are out. Remember, this lower leg is still a working leg, still breathing. Bring your hands back to the leg, walk to the top again so you get that deep hamstring stretch. If you can, flex the foot, and then we'll release so we could go to the other side. So sitting tall, you're gonna kick, bend, kick, and hold it straight. Walk your hands up that leg, pull yourself in, shoulders are down. Walk down the leg, falling back about halfway and stay there. If you can, let go. Still breathe, shoulders are shrugging down. Bring your hands back to the leg, walk to the top again. If you can, flex the foot to pull yourself in for a deeper stretch, and then you can relax. But keep this leg bent because we're gonna drop it to the floor. So one leg straight, one leg bent. Sit tall, and then twist towards the bent leg. Twist a little further if you can. And then we're gonna fold into the straight leg. Fold into it a little deeper with each exhale. You can bring yourself back up. We'll do the same, sitting tall, switching legs, rotating towards the bent leg. Still breathing. Twist a little further. And then fold into the straight leg. Sink into it a little deeper if you can. And then bring yourself right back up to seated. Sit with the soles of the feet together. Your knees are a little wide, and you're gonna lean into the legs. So after this little stretch, we're gonna make our way up to standing, but I like to bring myself up to standing by doing that rocking and then pop up to standing challenge. So I can see some going, no, 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 no. So if you can, you're gonna rock back to your shoulders and then come up with crossed ankles and pull yourself up to standing, and then now you're standing. So when you come back to the back edge of your mat, we'll go out for a set of Pilates push-ups, come back up to standing, and then finish with our last standing hamstring stretches. So when you're at the back of the mat, parallel feet, arms reach to the ceiling, and then round your spine down to the floor, hands to the mat. If you need to bend the knees, you can. You're gonna walk your hands out to the top of the mat and then hold yourself into plank. If you can, do at least 6 push-ups. Feel free to do more or less. You can modify these too by coming down to the knees. Remember, you don't wanna sink face to the floor for these push-ups. You also don't wanna look into your belly. So keep the neck in neutral, bending and straightening. Inhale as you bend, exhale, press. Narrowing the waistline. When you're ready, you're gonna have those arms straight and then walk yourself all the way back to your hands and pull yourself in. Tighten your abs, pulling the belly in, coming all the way back up to standing. So keeping the feet parallel, just one foot goes forward. Keep the legs straight and then hinge forward with a flat back. Try not to round your spine. Do try to keep it straight, even through the neck. Keep your shoulders slid down and sink your straight spine closer to that forward leg if you can, and then challenge your balance by doing a flexed foot. This one does challenge your balance a bit. Sink deeper into it. When you're ready, bring yourself back up. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Straight legs, straight spine, and then hinge forward. Shoulders are shrugging down out of the ears. Still breathing. Sink deeper if you can. Flex the forward foot if you can challenge your balance. When you're ready, you're gonna bring yourself right back up. Good, just stand, you can stand, I'm gonna sit, or kneel, doesn't matter. You're gonna just shrug your shoulders up and down. Inhale up, exhale down. Once your shoulders are down and back, keep them down and back all day. Try to keep your abs tight and pulled in. You can do a couple neck rolls if you have any tension in the neck. But after that, you guys are all done.